Pigweed here. Today we review an IPA and discuss the Scientific American. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crow Hill. Good evening, Crow Hill.
Good evening, Pigweed.
What is on your mind?
Well, I got three things on my mind,
boy, here we go.
and I want to see if you can tell what is common to all three of these things.
Go for it.
All right. Goldfish have a memory that only lasts 3 seconds.
Yes.
Sugar causes hyperactivity in children.
Okay.
And humans only use 10% of their brains.
All things 100% true. Ding! For the win.
All things everybody believes that are not true.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on out there.
Yes,
like it's like you know how that is. I had a guy, bartender guy. Everybody that 90% of people that win the lottery are broke in 5 years. I'm like,
What?
Really? Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Probably not. But that's so. But we kind of. We enjoy believing them, and some of them, like, I don't know why we enjoy that about the goldfish.
Right.
I've seen goldfish be trained to put a ball through a hoop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, you drop like play soccer. Like you drop a little ball in there.
Wow.
Huh. I mean, I'm sure it
Pretty
lasts
impressive.
longer than 3 seconds.
Yeah, they would have to. Yeah, they have to. Yeah, but there are certain things that we just like to believe for whatever reason, and so the whole sugar causes hyperactivity in children. I think what's really going on is the times that you're giving kids sugar, like cake and with frosting and soda and all that kind, is in a party.
Yes, and it's a self-reporting by the parents.
Yes.
Who in controlled studies will say, "Oh boy, he's not like that at home. He's real jacked up here for sure." Are you sure he's 4 years old?
Yeah.
That's kind of how they are. But,
Right.
But yeah, we like that one.
Yeah. Still don't give sugar to your kids because sugar's bad for you.
Yeah,
but
bad.
Still, it doesn't cause hyperactivity. All right. So what do we got to drink here?
I mean, otherwise, why would I get a cup of coffee? Couldn't I just get a piece of cake and get on my way to work, and then I'd just be all fired up?
Yeah, there you go.
Uplifted just like caffeine.
Just like it.
Well, that really
Maybe it's only
works.
for children, though.
Okay.
All right. So what do we got to drink here?
Well, this is from Antietam Brewery, and it has a historical man on the front.
Yeah, Mac McClellan.
Mac McClellan.
Little Mac.
I didn't realize he was little, but I know he wasn't up much for fighting.
Yeah. He got fired for not fighting enough.
Yes, and Meade took over. Is that seem right?
Yeah.
So this is Antietam Brewery from out there where Antietam is, not far, and it's it's a blend of 5 unknown hops.
5 unknown hops.
It's lovely in color.
It's supposed to be an American style IPA, whatever that means. And it's got an IPA aroma, not overpowering, but definitely there.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Coming in about 6.5, I think.
Now, one thing that I noticed when I was pouring this was it seemed to be overcarbonated, and I remember that happening to us once before. I was wondering if hey, Alfred in production, can you check what other beer that was that we poured that was overcarbonated?
Yeah.
Let's go back in the archives.
Nobody wants to pour beer on the floor.
Exactly. So you pour it should pour properly. This one was
but the head itself is nice.
It's a nice head.
And lacy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is that supposed to tell you? And say, so you get halfway down the beer and there's still this lingering foam on the glass. What is that? So people go, "Oh, good lacing." What are they implying when they say, this beer's got good lacing?
Well, I know that the opposite, when you pour a beer and it has carbonation like a Coke that just kind of blows up and it's gone, and then it's just, you don't see anything, that usually that's from using not the greatest ingredients. It's something about the chemistry of the way the beer comes together that if you want to get a good head, you have to add some additional grain or something like that.
Yeah, carapils, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so you can add certain things to the mash to try to get a better head to your beer. That was one of my faults early on in my brewing. So I'd get beers that tasted fine, but they just didn't have any head at all. The carbonation was more like a Coke than a beer.
All right. Well, it's clingy and it's very nice.
Yeah, very good.
Very good.
Good job.
But there was it's a bit of misleading sell on this one. The little tag on the shelf
Yeah.
said it was a single hop beer.
Huh.
This is their normal IPA.
Yeah.
It said, we're making this IPA, instead of the blend of 5 mysterious hops,
Right.
it's a single Citra hop. And that's not what this is. This is a blend of mysterious
Okay.
hops. So
Well,
this
yeah,
is the
we
normal
wanted-
one. It's very good.
We wanted to try the single hop, but we didn't get it. So, all right. So, Antietam, you're going to have to ship us some more.
Thank you very much.
All right.
People, there's pop science and then there's real science.
Yeah.
And so you're referencing the pop science that people love, but sometimes you need to go to an authoritative source, like the 175-year-old Scientific American.
Started before the Civil War.
Before Little Mac, if you want real science, which is unencumbered by, pop psychology, pop social things that you want to believe are true.
Yeah.
Sometimes they tell you things that are not true, but you follow the science.
Yes.
Isn't that how it works?
That's
You follow
supposed to
the
be how
science.
it works. And that's probably how it worked until about 15 years ago. It's Scientific American started to go nuts and started to publish some weird junk.
Yes.
And
So yes, the throughout the 20th century, second half of the 20th century, all college academic disciplines were, captured or at least influenced by, postmodernism and.
well, I think the problem,
levels of Marxism.
I think the problem is the universities in general got captured.
Yes, but not the STEM department, right? Because how can you do that? Facts are the facts.
Yeah.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
The bridge either stays up or it falls down.
Yes,
you know?
the satellite is either going to go around
Yeah,
or
exactly.
won't go out into space.
Exactly.
So
It either makes it to Venus or it doesn't make it to Venus. you
Right.
know, so-
Well, but I'd come across these series of articles, Scientific American, woken it up, and then I found an article that was sort of captured the whole problem.
Right.
This is by James Meigs, and he opens up with Michael Shermer's experience.
Which is funny because I just listened to a Quillette podcast interviewing Michael Shermer about his experience.
About this very experience.
About this very experience.
So
yeah.
here he was. So Stephen Gould is a great science communicator,
Right.
and Michael Shermer was on his way to matching the 300 consecutive issues
Yeah.
published, which is pretty
quite a
solid.
feat. Quite a feat, yes.
He's the editor of Skeptic Magazine. Does all kinds of interesting sciencey stuff. Has
Yeah.
a podcast and all. And however, he ran into
He ran into a wood chipper.
Yeah,
Because,
to the wokeness, to the there was a change in leadership,
yeah.
and
So what was the article about?
the fallacy of excluded exceptions. We did a great show on. Trust me, it was great on logical fallacies.
We
I
did.
do not recall, or am I aware of, the fallacy of excluded exceptions.
Yeah, so the idea being, if you were to say, okay, here's a personal example. When we were driving around with the kids, and one daughter says something kind of silly, and another daughter turns to her and says, "You have a wrong brain." And we stop and say, "What? What is that?" She has a wrong brain. What do you mean by that? Well, what else could explain it?
What else could explain it?
Yeah, that's the fallacy of excluded exceptions, because you're saying this is the only possible explanation. That's usually the kind of thing that's used for race. Someone will say there's a racial disparity between this group and blah, 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 blah. And the only possible cause of that is racism. It couldn't be anything else.
Well, this was about the horror film curse.
Oh.
So that bad luck tends to haunt actors who appear in scary movies. And then, then when you actually look at it, it's because people like that stuff. That's why it's, embraced by popular
But it's not
culture.
true. It's not true that
Actors in most films are fine, and bad luck happens to people in non-scary movies. I mean, there's just nothing to it.
Right.
But then he applied it to. I just thought this was fascinating.
Yeah.
the thing that so just like
everybody, just like goldfish and just like those other things, everybody
knows what
that if you're abused as a child, you're more likely to abuse your children.
And I tell you, I'm a total victim of that. It is just so part of popular culture.
It's just one of those things you breathe in.
It's like, well, you know how it is.
Yeah.
And that's just flat not true.
But apparently, when they look at the evidence, it's just not true. And the problem is that you don't account for the people who were abused as children and grow up to never abuse their children.
Yeah, I mean, where are the statistics on that? I mean, where could you possibly even draw that from?
That's right.
Of course, the ones that are and do, you have they're in jail and they tell their story, and you're like, okay.
Or they go to the therapist and they tell their story or whatever.
There's the connection.
But
where do you get the connection?
Where do you get the connection? You have this grown up who is a good parent, raises their kids, never abuses their kids, would never think of abusing their kids, and they were abused as a child. Who would know?
And the flip side, the abuser who had a perfectly wonderful childhood.
Exactly, right.
So the weight of all of that certainly outweighs the evidence. Well, now I know how, but
so he tried to submit this article to Scientific American, and they were afraid that somebody might be offended.
Yeah.
So the thing that struck me...
That raising the topic might be too traumatic for victims. Victims who want to believe that that's the case, to kind of, because it helps them understand their trauma by going, okay, well, this is a pattern and this is the way things are. And I mean, is that what Scientific American was arguing?
So this kind of thing always reminds me of, when you hear something like that, you have to stop and say, well, what if it was applied in this case? So, for example, they're afraid that people who were traumatized as children will be offended by this article, and we don't want to offend people. Really? You don't want to offend creationists, for example. You offend them all the time, right? So
what does offending have to do
exactly.
with
it has nothing to do with
scientific
it. Has nothing to do with it. But also, they try to get away with this. They try to pretend that they're following a rule. We don't want to offend somebody, therefore we don't want to do this, which is just a lie. That's not their rule. No. They're not afraid of offending people, which they shouldn't be.
Which they shouldn't be.
They should just try to say, this is the truth. We're trying to educate people about scientific truth. We're not really worried about your feelings.
Right. And you don't even have to qualify with, well, I'm sorry if this offends people, but the truth is, you don't even need to do that. Just not your job.
Obviously, you don't want to intentionally offend people. You don't need to be intentionally offensive or anything like that. But if the truth of the matter is that this thing that people think about abused people were, people who abuse a child, abuse adults, if that's not true, then you have to say that it's not true.
All right, so Shermer did not run into the woodcutter. He ran into... just a punch in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next month, boy, now he's really asking for trouble, because it had to do with discrimination against racial minorities, gays, and other groups.
Right.
And this was similar to Steven Pinker's book, The Better Angels of Our Nature.
Yeah.
And he wrote Shermer's is The Moral Arc. No, that's not The Moral Arc. That's Sam Harris.
Sam Harris is The Moral Arc. Yeah.
But he made the same argument that, you know what? Gosh, things are actually getting better.
Yeah.
But for progressives, any problem, racism, pollution, poverty, means surrendering the rhetorical high ground.
Yes.
If you say that things are actually improving.
Yeah. Like, for example, the condition of blacks in America today. We can't say that it's better than it was during slavery. That would just be horrible to say.
Well, under Barack Obama, you did, and then the day Trump was elected, America was worse than slavery.
Yeah, it was worse than being in chains and kept in, come on. Some of the things
this
people
is what
say.
I think of. So let's just say it's the American Bird Institute.
Right.
Well, they don't generate any money, so you have to get grant money and donations.
Yeah.
So you're incentivized to downplay any success that you might have. So you said, well, so the American Bird Institute has been around for 25 years, and it's never been worse. So wait. My thought is, well, either you're terrible at your job,
right.
or this institute doesn't need to exist,
or something.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
But how about saying the good work that we have done over the last 25 years has saved 9% more. We have 9% more birds than we used to have.
It's the same thing as, like, if you're an advocacy group and you're advocating for children with autism, then what you want to do is redefine autism to make really scary statistics. 1 in 4 children has, right? What you want to do is you want to redefine autism so a whole lot more people have it, so that you can get.
Although there is
money.
something going on with that one.
Yes, there is something going on. That's another issue.
Yes, that is another issue. So the editor's reaction to this is an awful response, is saying, quote, everything is wonderful and everyone should stop whining doesn't really work.
Which is not what he was saying, of course.
What?
Yeah.
No.
I'm not saying everything is wonderful. The point is that the arc of human history is that things get better and better. For example,
can we take a minute to pat ourselves on the back a little bit and say things are going well, but which was what a normal person would say. But if you're captured by the progressive left, who has to continuously, whose juice comes from the fact that everything is always getting worse
and everything is awful, right?
Yeah. What a bunch of Debbie Downers.
Just think of all the things that are so much better. Like, for example, we have good dentistry. Apparently, dying from diseases of your teeth was a huge problem for humanity for a long time. Or malaria. Now we haven't completely conquered it yet, but it's certainly better than it used to be. Malaria has killed tons of people. Or starvation. Starvation has taken a plunge, just even in the past 50 years.
Yes.
So the number of people in any given population who died from violence has taken a dramatic decline. Like back in days when you lived in groups of 30 to 50 people, then a large portion of your population would die from violent conflicts with other groups. Right. But nowadays it's like a much smaller percentage.
And so nonprofit fundraising, okay, it's disingenuous, but I get it. However, when we turn to actual science, we expect them to clear the air on these matters.
Yeah, we expect them to tell us the truth and not just try to paint some.
And now,
picture.
when you have the Michael Shermers and the Stephen Goulds, who are scientists, submit scholarly works to a scientific magazine, if they don't line up with, the progressive viewpoint. Then they're shouted down.
Yeah. Well, so I looked up a bunch of examples of Scientific American wokeness, and they were very easy to find. Do you have some more in the article there?
Oh, well, yes, there is, but this is time for that.
Yeah. So Scientific American came out saying they want federal oversight of homeschooling. How is that a scientific issue?
Scientific American?
Yeah. Why is that? For one thing, homeschooler kids outperform public school kids. So why are you taking this position? It's just a woke position. Another one that was very interesting was we can't impose woman and man on the past. And this is like that thing we talked about.
That one.
It's like that thing we talked about where the scientist got up in front. He was giving a lecture in
anthropologist. Right?
And he said, I can't tell when I dig up some bones. I can't tell if it's a woman or a man. And they're all like, well, of course you can.
We learned that in our sophomore year.
That's right. Yeah, what are you talking about? Of course you can't. Of course you can. But there's just the woke pressure to give in to the transgender ideology, and Scientific American has straightforwardly promoted transgender stuff. Like they were talking about how some species of birds had 4 different chromosomally distinct sexes or something like that. And this other biologist said, that's just a bunch of nonsense. They have 2 sexes. There are some other things going on, but they clearly have 2 sexes.
Yes, with terms of transgenderism, yes, there are debates over transgender medicine, but there are no studies that say that puberty blockers for dysphoric kids has long-term benefits.
No,
because
what they do is they lie. What they do is they lie and they say, if you don't give your kid this treatment, they're likely to commit suicide. And there's absolutely no evidence for that. It's just a complete made-up lie. So they browbeat the parents into, would you rather have a live transgender kid or a dead kid? And they threaten them with this stupid made-up fear of suicide. Actually, the funny thing, not funny, the very sad thing is, the exact opposite is the case.
Yes.
That the people who are more likely to commit suicide are the ones who went through the transgender stuff.
Right, and that's only because we actually have short-term recent studies. We don't have any long-term studies about the positive benefits of it. So far, all the science points to it's actually the opposite of what you call a good thing. It was one of the Scandinavian countries, super progressive. They stopped the whole thing. They're like, we don't have anything against transgenderism. We say we need to keep studying this because it's very important to study. But right now, there is no science behind any of this. Yeah. And so we encourage you to pursue the science, and if things change, we'll reconsider. But right now, you are basing this on zero amounts of science.
Yes. So the Scientific American took up the thing of referring to people as pregnant people, not pregnant women.
Yes, they did?
Yeah, they did.
Or Cyan, that's what the cool kids call it.
And then Steven Pinker tweeted, Unscientific American, another noble American institution run into the ground when clueless trustees handed over the keys to a woke fanatic.
Yes, and so the highly credentialed new editor
has a degree from a community college.
No. Would you believe she's a woman?
First of all,
I haven't heard her actually give her pronouns.
Oh.
But as far as I can tell.
And by the way, I didn't mean to diss community colleges. I think community colleges are great things. But if you're going to be the editor of Scientific American, you should probably have some serious credentials. Yeah. So the other one that came out in Scientific American is Football is Racist. Damar Hamlin's collapse highlights the violence black men experience in football. It's like, because...
Why do white guys get tackled so softly?
I know. I always see them tackling the white guys so carefully, and the black guys get really brutalized. It's really amazing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I've watched football all my life, and it's just so obvious.
It's just so obvious.
Yeah. Modern mathematics confronts its white patriarchal past. You saw that one?
Oh, I like that one. That's a good one. And, because you're right, math is racist.
Yeah. Denial of evolution is white supremacy because evolution says that humans all came out of Africa, so that somehow if you deny evolution, that's anti-African. But here's the funny thing. In the United States, the people who are most likely to deny evolution are blacks. So somehow blacks are white, promoting white supremacy in their rejection of evolution.
Yes.
Now, obviously, not all of them, but apparently there's a higher percentage of people who don't believe in evolution among blacks.
How about the racist roots of fighting obesity?
Oh my gosh! So how is it racist? How is it racist?
It's racist to tell fat black women that being fat is unhealthy.
Oh, but what if you tell fat white women that it's unhealthy?
Well, only because there are more morbidly, percentage-wise, more morbidly obese black women. So if you tell all women, it disproportionately affects, because that's how the equity thing works.
That's how that all works.
Yes, it's telling any women, but since it disproportionately
affects black women.
You know how you know.
Now this one I thought was particularly funny. Did you see the one about the Jedi?
I did see the Jedi.
Yeah,
so somebody thought it would be cool to take the DEI, throw justice in there, and then you don't have an acronym that sounds like die.
Yes.
I thought that
was kind of clever. I mean, not that we like either of them, but so DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion. Jedi is justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So they make it into a cool name.
Into a cool thing.
Who doesn't want to be called a Jedi? That's
somebody,
a cool thing, right?
Somebody somewhere.
So they published a paper saying
this is Scientific American.
Scientific American published a paper saying the Jedi that's how problematic it is to say problematic. Favorite word. They are a religious order of intergalactic police monks prone to white saviorism and toxically masculine approaches to conflict resolution. Violent duels with phallic lightsabers, gaslighting by means of Jedi mind tricks, etc. And it's just complete made-up nonsense. But that's what you get out of a lot of this woke analysis.
Which
they just make up stuff.
Which you expect it. You've come to expect it everywhere, and now it's hit science. Let me give you. Can I help you with a little how we got here?
Yeah.
Well, would you believe that French theorist Michael Foucault.
Oh gosh.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michel.
Michel. Yes, I wouldn't at all be surprised if it comes
That
back to
Michel Foucault
Mm-hmm.
said that scientific objectivity is an illusion produced and shaped by society's systems of power.
Because everything has to do with power. That's
Everything
right,
is
yeah.
a power structure, and so this postmodernist subjectivist experience, moral relativism that didn't used to be in STEM fields, who held fast to objective truth,
Right.
and then it was creeping until Flovid hit.
Right.
What's Flovid? Can you help me a little bit?
Yeah, that's the madness that ensued where you had the combination of the reaction to George Floyd and COVID at the same time.
Can I share with you are you aware of the T16 variant?
T16?
Yes. The T16 variant is the Trump 2016. So if you take Floyd
Right.
plus COVID, Floyd plus COVID plus Trump derangement syndrome,
Okay, you get Flovid 16?
you get Floyd T16.
T16, okay.
and that's how even STEM buckled to the
Just too much
onslaught
pressure.
of
Too much pressure.
Yeah, it was hanging in there,
Yeah.
and then the T16 variant.
That was just too much.
It was just too
The
much.
straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, you wonder. One thing that I wonder about all this wokeness stuff is how much wokeness do you need in an organization for it to topple?
Yeah, you're kind of seeing it. I mean, it's broken Disney, and speaking of Jedi.
Yes, exactly.
And-
Apparently, the most recent iteration of the Star Wars thing is just a complete disaster. But so it seems as if a relatively small number of loudmouth activists can turn an organization woke, and that implies that the leadership and
But there's also yes, that's true by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's finish your thought. But it's the atmosphere, the zeitgeist
Yes.
of Flovid T16.
Yeah.
That really kicked it.
Nobody's
that really gave
nobody's
the power
willing to step up. Nobody's
that small group of loudmouths
Yeah.
was there, but it didn't have enough oxygen.
Yeah.
Until
It's kind of like this. Imagine you're an atheist and you're sitting in you're at a wake, and somebody's mother has just died, and somebody is comforting them while she's in a better place. Right? Are you gonna stand up and say no, that's not true? You're giving them false. Of course not. Of course you're not going to do that.
Zip it.
So it's the same kind of thing where the George Floyd episode made people feel like, gosh, blacks are just feeling like they're being beat down, and am I gonna step up and say, well, it's actually not what really happened.
Statistically, if you look at the numbers, it's really not that.
It's a hard thing to do, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to say when somebody feels, whether legitimately or illegitimately, when they feel like they're being beaten down. You don't want to say, actually.
But also that lone angry atheist.
Mm-hmm.
What if three other people got up first and said, "There is no God. There's no. Why are you lying to this poor woman? Tell her the truth." And you're like, I wasn't going to say anything, but now I've got a little room to breathe here.
Yeah, so there's certainly a bandwagon following thing going on here, and it's a combination of a bunch of different factors. But the bottom line is, even though there might be times when it's inappropriate to say the hard thing, like George Floyd. What you think happened with George Floyd, or what you think happened with Matthew Shepard, or what you think happened is not really what happened.
Hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Hands up. Or Juicy Smollett, or any of that kind of stuff. Like what you think happened is really not what happened. But the time to say that is not necessarily when people are all upset about it.
So this is not the time, and so. So Flovid was
That was the cause. That was the tipping point?
Well, I don't know, but it was when the grievance crowd saw the crack to slip through. And this is our moment.
Yeah.
And the entire corporate structure
just collapsed in front of them.
Said, look, what does it hurt for Bed Bath & Beyond to issue a statement about how we're against racism and your local boys club and
everybody else on the
it's
planet,
like well, we don't want to be left out of we don't want to be left out, so we'll issue a statement too. And then Scientific American decided, then science, well, that's not just Scientific American, but let's get to, in its 175 years, it had never endorsed a candidate
until they had to, of course,
oppose Trump. Because of the T-16.
Because of Trump. I mean, Trump is part of the current madness. I mean, Trump makes people crazy. He makes people crazy on both sides of the aisle, and that's just what he does.
But Nature magazine, the New England Journal of Medicine, also people who've never gotten involved in politics, never endorsed anything at all, because that's just not their place. But now now it's silence is violence.
Yes, exactly. So it used to be considered a virtue for certain people in certain conditions to avoid politics. Like, for example, a preacher would avoid politics. I know some journalists who never voted because they said, they want to be objective. They don't want to be involved in politics. But nowadays, you're right.
General Grant never voted.
Is that right?
Because he felt like he didn't want to be in a position to have to go to war to fight for a president that he didn't vote for.
Okay. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's some sense to that. But now we have this idea that unless you're an activist promoting woke causes, you're an evil person.
Yes.
So that kind of zeitgeist is what's leading to this collapse of Scientific American and all these other
right. And now, how about the tendency towards the climate?
Yeah.
So now everything, you can't report the science. It has to have a doomsday aspect to it.
Unless, for example, there's a story just recently that Australia experienced the coldest day ever in June or something like that. That has nothing to do with the climate.
I saw a picture. I saw a picture of a Montana junior college practicing in the snow in June.
Right. Yeah. But you can't say anything about that.
That's a climate issue. That's not a climate. That's weather.
That's weather. Right. It's only a climate issue when it's hot.
I saw this.
Climate issue.
So let me think. Your Fahrenheit to Celsius scales. When you're in the low 30s, you're in the low to mid 90s, right? In Celsius. So they show
the low to mid 30s Celsius is 90s Fahrenheit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lovely weather lady standing in front of a map of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And it's covered in low 30s. Mm-hmm. And everything, it's just a map. Mm-hmm. 15 years ago. Then there's a different lovely lady in front of the same map with the same numbers, and the whole thing is red.
Yeah, exactly. The way they color code it, they make it look like everything's on fire.
Yeah. You know what? It's a heat wave in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nuts how that is.
Isn't that funny? Because it was always cold in summer when I was a kid. Where did this hot summer come from? I don't know.
So there's a little bit. Now I understand if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
That's how the news works. So you want to lead with a terrible story, but there's a terrible story, and it's the beginning of we're all going to die, or two different things. Yes, you're going to run down to a hurricane, of course. Get your climate pouring on, but then to extend that to, and this is just a symptom of how we're all going. How this is going to be all day, every day.
That's right.
Except for when it's drought.
Yes.
Which is also caused.
Yeah. It's too bad because something has superseded what used to be a commitment to truth and
justice in the American way.
Truth. Okay, yeah, maybe it's because Superman isn't on TV anymore. Maybe I didn't think of that. But So it used to be that people had some level of respect for what was true, whether I like it or not.
Right.
And that seems to have gone away. Now people seem to like, no, true doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm getting what I like.
I love here the debunking of pop science, and I actually find it quite comforting to know that most abused children do not go. Because what would you marry an abused person if that was if there's a 90% chance
that this
abuser is going to abuse your kids?
Right, of course you would.
So that's kind of offensive to kids who are like, you know what? I know what it's like to grow up in a crappy household with a crappy dad. I will not be that guy. I commit my life to not being that guy.
Right.
And there was bound to be more people who respond to their own abuse than the pop psychology. But every time it's true, people can't wait to say, see?
Right. See, I told you so.
See, I told
Just
you
like
so.
those goldfish. Yep. All right. We got anything else going on here?
Not really. You got a upbeat ending here?
Upbeat. Well, I think the upbeat ending is that the wokeness of Scientific American is now coming out and people are recognizing it. Yeah. So perhaps that we'll start to see a correction and they'll start going the other way.
Yeah, maybe,
I would like to see that.
Maybe the new editor will be fired and they will commit themselves to science and
we'll get somebody reasonable in there.
Michael Shermer won't get his 300 consecutive,
but
maybe he'll get his 300th not consecutive.
Okay, well, that would be something to
Michael.
look forward. Yeah, go for it. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.